you guys doing? And hello, in reference to the Alone in the Dark movie. Hello, Christian Slater, and hello, Stephen Dorff, and other actors and actresses in the film. Yeah, I'm watching it on Tubi. How you guys doing? And yeah, there's an MX6 in the video, about 1 hour and 31 minutes and 2 seconds into the film. Yeah, it looks like the MX6 that I was in a car accident in on Sunset Boulevard when I was a passenger in the car. Somebody was trying to say they tried to do a reenactment. Reenactment, I don't know if they did not in reference to Christian Slater in the film, but when these people have tried to injure me, they've tried to do these reenactments where they cover up the injuries that they tried to cause me. Check to see the history about that car accident in reference to Sunset Boulevard, if they tried to do a reenactment. Or, when they've shot at me and these government people have tried to murder me when I've been injured. What they do is they try to knock you out, and then they try to steal the benefits and the lawsuit monies that a person was supposed to have received when they do their reenactments. You know what I mean? Like a person might get injured, then they knock the person out, then the person recovers from their injuries, and then somebody runs off with their lawsuit monies or insurance monies. Like when I've been shot by dirty government before or injured by dirty government, somebody runs off with the lawsuit monies that I was supposed to receive. That's how they cover up injuries that the government causes people. But anyways, that's another story of importance. And in reference to the news media, the LA Times or the Hollywood Reporter, I need you guys to do a story or do, a photo thing of, hang on, I gotta button my shirt. It's not buttoning right. But, get a photograph of my RX-7 that's on my mother's property in Beverly Hills. Now, isn't there supposed to be a Beverly Hills police car in the driveway of my mother's mansion in Beverly Hills? A squad car. Reference to my mother, Doris Duke. This is very important. I need to see a picture of my RX-7 that's on my mother's mansion property in Beverly Hills. And my red Ford Tempo is supposed to be at my father's mansion in Beverly Hills. They're still choking me. They tried to do the hiccups just now. When you hear, everybody knows that in reference to my voice, because my voice is copywritten for my identity too. So in reference to that satellite man tampering with my voice, every time my voice doesn't sound right, like they're trying to gag me or trying to choke me with the satellite, it's a lawsuit. They're trying to restrict my freedom of speech. And there's documents that in reference to the government, they tried to block my father's freedom of speech back in the 60s, and in reference to the government's activities of them trying to steal my mother and father's companies. And there's documents about that. And that's why there's documents in reference to the government doesn't have a right tampering with my freedom of speech or my freedom of expression and my freedom rights. So, it's very important in reference to a lot of documents and the Royal Protocol in reference to people trying to steal my identity, people trying to misrepresent my identity. Like these people that are trying to hold me hostage tried to claim that they were representatives of somebody, but they're not representatives of mine and my mother and father's companies. See, this is very important in reference to these criminals that are trying to steal the companies. They have tried to claim to be representatives of Fortune 500 corporations. They tried to claim that they were representatives of my mother and father's estates when they are not. These people tried to claim that they were representatives of the media when they are conspiring against the media. And they're conspiring against the freedom of press. They're conspiring against the banking industry laws too. They're obviously conspiring against the Postal Service laws. There's a lot of things that these people are doing that is 100% illegal. And these people are trying to confuse my identity with somebody of their race that's trying to steal my identity. Now, I've performed as a different type of artist and, different race and different ethnicity in films and movies and TV shows growing up. And hello, Mickey Mouse Club, and hello, Mary Jo Slater. How you doing? I saw your little Mickey Mouse song on there on YouTube. How you guys doing? And, the story of these people in government or in Indiana that are doing these things, there has to be an investigation. And didn't the National Guard do an investigation on who these people are that are blocking me from my mother and father's mansions? Did the IRS do an investigation on these people that are stealing my money? The people that are stealing money that people tried to send to me? The monies that came from, that I was supposed to receive from my mother and father's companies? The IRS is obligated to find out why these people are holding on to my money. Why these people are holding on to lawsuits that I was supposed to have received. These government people. They thought they would torture a person to try to make them look stupid. Every day of my life is documented. All my time is accounted for. Oh, and Christian Slater, how you doing? Somebody said something about, well, if you wanted to hang out, man, anytime, rock on. Or, and other celebrity friends. Everybody knows I don't get into crazy stuff. I don't get into weird stuff. Everybody knows that in reference to anybody. And so in reference to just general information, I don't get into, everybody knows I don't do drugs. I don't get into, a lot of other celebrities don't do that shit either. A lot of times they do media to bring awareness to things, but in reference to just public media. But in reference to me, everybody knows I don't do no drugs. I don't get into, I'm not gay. And, I'm the only child of my mother and father. There are excuses that people have tried to make in reference to people blocking me from my mother and father's mansions. I grew up in my mother and father's mansions. They even went into one of the mansions and found my fingerprints from when I was a little boy. And they supposedly, one of the television stations in Hollywood did that or something. But yet, I'm still being held hostage. The records are at the Treasury, too. These people are trying to bring up false confusions of my identity. And you have to consider the source. The people that are trying to confuse my identity with somebody else, when my DNA is one of a kind in the whole world. There's nobody in the world that has my same DNA. Nobody has the exact same blood type as me, anywhere in the world. Only my mother and father and grandparents had the same DNA, basic information, family history of DNA, bloodline. I'm not German either. Not Middle Eastern either. Not other ethnicities and nationalities either. I'm friendly with a lot of people, though, of, certain races and ethnicities. I don't associate with Germans for a lot of reasons. I don't associate with Middle Easterners for a lot of reasons. But I don't date girls from their race either. But in reference to people that know me, people in Hollywood, the news media, I need somebody to take a photograph of my RX-7 that's been on my mother's property since the 90s. Maybe 1990, 1989 or something. I don't know. Check the year. But my black RX-7 there. It's supposed to be on my mother's mansion property in Beverly Hills. And my red Ford Tempo is supposed to be on my father's mansion property in Beverly Hills. And in reference to these people that are blocking me from my mother and father's mansions, the IRS has to sue them. They're trying to take possession of things that I'm the owner of. And possession is not 90% of the law. I'm 100% the owner of all my mother and father's properties and companies. There is no percentage of anybody being any rightful position of possession or being in possession of anything. I'm the only child. of my mother and father. There is never going to be anybody having any 90% of possession, or they thought possession was 90% of the law or something. Well, I'm 100% the owner forever. They're still hitting me in the throat. And they're dry throating me, and they burnt my front teeth again last night. That's physical assault. That is always causing damage. That is physical assault. That satellites do cause damage to people's bodies. It does cause damage to the skin. It does cause damage to bone. It does cause damage to the face. It does cause damage to people's hair. Yes, it does. And, in reference to the information of, I'll probably watch Alone in the Dark Part 2 here later on. But, in reference to the endangerment of government, the government blocking me from my money, government blocking me from my mother and father's mansions, the news media needs to go over to the properties and say, okay, who's blocking him? They'll say, oh, they were confused about your identity. No. If you're on my mother and father's property, company properties, if you're an executive or a manager or a personnel that works at the companies or the human resources, you don't have a right being confused who I am. You don't have a right being confused that I'm the child of my parents. And I have royal diplomatic immunity. So if somebody shows up and tries to slander my character or tries to call me a fake, you got to call the cops. You got to call the embassies. You got to call the treasury. You got to call somebody. Call your friends and say, hey, this person showed up. Call the National Guard. Say, hey, National Guard, these people showed up and said that they were going to take control of things, or they were the new owners. No, there ain't never any new owners of nothing. Of my family history, of my mother and father's estates, or my grandparents' estates. There is never, ever going to be any new owner. I am the owner since I was born. My parents had me to be the owner. My parents planned my birth for me to be the owner of the companies, the properties, and the land. There is never going to be any legal reason for these people to have been blocking me from my mother and father's mansions. Oh, and in reference to productions, I own my mother and father's production companies and TV stations and radio stations. And I don't know if the Hollywood Reporter or the LA Times, the New York Times, or any of them has done any stories on the history of productions, but I own my mother and father's production companies and studios. And I am supposed to have production credits, which of course I own the copyright names of the companies of my mother and father and grandparents, which does show in reference to films, but my name has to be there too. Because this is the main important thing in reference to now. Because people are trying to cover shit up. They're trying to cover up who I am. They're trying to steal my identity. They're trying to steal the monies that my companies had invested in productions. They're still choking me with a satellite. You understand that? The copywritten symbols of certain companies and production companies. Oh, Viacom said hello. How you doing? And Miramax said hello or something. And some other studios. How you guys doing? But, my name, my birth name, in reference to my mother and father, of course I have a very lengthy family name because of my mother and father and grandparents and great-grandparents and family history. Because I'm the last living relative and I'm the only child. But, in reference to certain documentation of my birth name, it has to be on the credits. Because my studios that I'm the owner of and production companies, they distribute media to televisions and cable networks and movie theaters and things like that. So in reference to my identity, and my family name, of course, is very important, but reference to my name of who I am and my birth name has to be on production credits. Anybody disagreeing with that? There could be court cases. They're dry throating me right here. They're hitting me right here. And in reference to the activity of things, the history of government trying to confuse my identity with other people, they can be charged for misleading people intentionally. My identity is the number one documented identity in the whole country. When somebody's in a movie, or when somebody's on TV, or when somebody's in the newspaper, or when somebody's on, a production of a news network, a television show, a movie, my identity is documented in there too. Even if I didn't appear in that particular show, my identity in the Royal Protocol is in all those films. And in reference to government trying to attack the media or trying to attack celebrities, you are violating my identity and you're violating the protection documents that are in films and movies of my identity and my ownership. So in reference to government conspiring against Hollywood or the government conspiring against media, the government has no legal position to be doing that. And people don't have a right pretending like they didn't know who I am in Hollywood or in the media or who my parents are and grandparents, my biological parents. You guys understand that? So in reference to government or in reference to people that are pretending like they don't know who I am, when my identity is documented in films and television shows, in movies and TV shows I was in, and in movies and TV shows that I wasn't in. The Royal Protocol is in movies and television shows 24 hours a day. When they're on TV, when they're on cable networks, when they're in movie theaters. And it might be a show that I was in, or it might be a new movie. It might be a new show that I wasn't in. But my identity is documented in those TV shows and movies. And the document has been there since I was born. So in reference to government and their activities and my parents' identity, and my father owning production companies, my mother owning production companies, my grandparents owning production companies, and national monuments. Historic documents, historic monuments. The government does not have a right trying to steal Hollywood. Don't forget government's term limits, too. The government's in violation of being in power illegally with a hidden agenda, with hidden activities of previous administrations. There's term limits in America in reference to all government positions of politicians, where they cannot extend their political administration past the time of what the term limits are. If they do, they can get charged for treason. Do you understand that? If the government tries to stay in power under a certain administration, after their time of government, they can get arrested. They can get prosecuted for treason. They can get prosecuted for communism. If their government administration has been leading other administrations of new politicians or politicians they were associated with in previous administrations, in reference to the wrongdoing of previous administrations and the activity of them trying to steal America, them trying to steal property and land, those people must get prosecuted. You guys understand that, right? And in reference to my benefits that I was supposed to have received, did the IRS go after those government people for being in possession of monies and benefits that belong to me? From my injuries that I've had, from the abuses that I have had, and in reference to benefits, I was supposed to have benefits in reference to safety. in reference to not being put in harm's way. Do you understand that? I was supposed to have received benefits. Did the IRS find out which person is holding on to the benefits I was supposed to have received? It's pretty much straightforward arrests against these people. Does the IRS have it on record how many times these people have shot at me? How many times these people tried to murder me? How many times these people tried to steal my penis? How many times they tried to steal diamonds from my body? How many times they tried to steal my blood and sperm? The IRS is obligated to prosecute these people for their illegal holdings of monies and account information and benefits that I was supposed to have received. My benefits are my benefits. They're not for other people to be stealing. Do you guys understand that? In the banking industry, it's supposed to go after people that are blocking me from accounts that my parents had for me. And I own the estates of my mother and father. And the IRS needs to go after people being in possession of monies that they were supposed to deliver to me. And it is 4:24 p.m., 7/3/2022. Lots of things of importance and lots of things to talk about. And, this is just total BS what people are doing. Haven't received any benefits yet. And these people trying to play Photoshop, trying to confuse my identity with somebody else that's trying to steal from me. The IRS is obligated to go after those people too. They're in possession of financial value of things that belong to me. Things that my parents bought for me. Things that my parents owned that I am the owner of. There has to be court cases. Lots of things of importance.